sister.
It starts with one thing. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. That the scientists trying to explain in due time. All I know, time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as a pendulum swings. Watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock takes life away. It's so unreal. Take a look out below. Watch the time go right out the window. Try to hold on. They didn't even know. Wasted it all just to watch you go. Everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it is of me will eventually be a memory of a time I tried so hard. It got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. One thing, I don't know why, it doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to remind myself how I tried so hard. Not in the way you were mocking me. You acting like I was part of your property. You never paid all the times you're wrong with me. I'm surprised they got it so. Things aren't the way they were before. You wouldn't even recognize me anymore. Not that you knew me back then, but it all comes back to me in the end. That's everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it is of me will eventually be a memory of the time I tried so hard. It got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I put my trust in you. Pushed as far as I can go. For all this, there's only one thing you should know. I put my trust in you. Pushed as far as I can go. For all this, there's only one thing you should know.
Welcome, Nando.
Yeah, it's fucking interesting, Morris. This is very interesting. Should we start with one?
Whatever you want.
Start with one. So I think because I can see no valid argument whereby you can make the claim that atheism is irrational, I'd first like to get you to forward your argument as to why atheism is irrational.
Because there's no evidence, there's no good reason to think atheism is true.
Okay, so let's take this a little bit more rationalist, shall we say, not to take the piss. Right, so let's define all our terms, because if we want to have a meaningful debate as to whether X is Y, we need to first define X and we need to define Y. I think the most important thing first is giving a good definition of what rationality is, and from there we can understand what irrationality is, right?
I don't think the definitions are that important.
It's very important because we're asking if the predication of atheism aligns with within the heuristic of irrationality. So yes, I think it is very important. So first of all, rationality is simply using
Why
all
don't
the
you just
information.
give me the reason, the rationale for atheism, then?
Okay, well, first of all, let me define my terms. Don't get too hasty. So rationality is simply using the best of your opinions to, the best of the information that you have to best achieve a hypothetical imperative. So a hypothetical imperative is something saying...
That's not rationality.
Well, what is rationality? I'm going to say my definition first, then you can take down mine if you think I've got it wrong. I think that rationality is simply using the information to the best of your ability, which best encroaches upon your hypothetical imperative. So, for example, if I was a weatherman, my hypothetical imperative is to predict the weather it might be tomorrow. We can imagine a weatherman who gets who sees an extremely low atmospheric pressure, a large cloud forming over a certain area, and predicts that it's going to rain. He may be wrong and he may be right. However, that prediction is rational because he's using the information he has to the best of his ability to fulfill his hypothetical imperative. Okay, so that's what rationality is. So irrationality then is doing something is using the best of your is despite having all this information and all to not properly encroach upon your hypothetical imperative.
What's
Would you agree?
just give me the fucking argument for atheism.
Okay, therefore, let's look at atheism now. Atheism is the belief that there is no God. Now, to say that this is irrational, well, let's think about it. There's many good arguments for the non-existence of God. I think the most effective of which is the evidential problem of evil, but specifically a modified one.
Stop.
I assume you know what the evidential
Stop.
problem of evil is?
That's not an argument for atheism.
Yes, it is. It's an argument
It's
for
not.
the
You don't know. Okay, so you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay.
So problem one is you're stupid. Okay. Problem
so
two,
can I explain my evidence?
dude, that's not an argument for atheism.
It is an argument for atheism. If we define atheism as the lack of belief in God as a first order view, right?
It's not an argument for atheism. You don't understand logic. You are a moron.
We first need to determine whether that is a rational argument.
You just don't know what the fuck you're talking about, dude. What an idiot. Oh my god, what a yap idiot. That'd be like me saying, free will theodicy proves Christianity. Because that guy's like sitting there trying to give me a community college lecture, and he doesn't even know what he hasn't the foggiest idea of what he's saying. His definition of rational was goofy. Stupid goofy. Then he thinks the logical problem of evil, which doesn't even work, but he thinks that's not even an argument for atheism. Like literally everything that guy was saying was incorrect. Here for you. And then I tried to make him self-aware of how wrong he was, but he was immune to criticism because he's arrogant. So I'm not going to just sit there and listen to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. It's like, I'm not really interested in that. Ain't nobody got time for that. No, nothing on here is wrong. 2 and 4 are connected. Science would be like a proof. The fact that science is possible would be like a proof of God. You got a question? Welcome, Jason.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yo, just proving God exists.
So that you said there was no slavery in the Old Testament. What happened in the Old Testament?
Well, the deconstruction Christians will point to passages like Leviticus 25 to say that God condones slavery or something. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, so what was happening before?
What was happening before? Well, there would have been slavery in Egypt. I guess what I'm saying, I should be more specific. I'm saying there's no slavery in ancient Israel. God didn't condone slavery. That Leviticus 25 isn't about slavery.
So, I know in the Bible it talks about how people owned other people and they had to like do deeds for them to pay
No
off
one
something.
owned no one owned anyone. They would just say like they owned your labor, not
Yeah.
your body. Like you would
Okay.
basically like volunteer on your own free will to like labor for someone, and in return they would like provide you room and board and basically save you from poverty.
Okay. Um.
It's really like a welfare program. In the ancient world, they didn't have like you couldn't get a bank loan, you couldn't get like food stamps, so they had the institution of servanthood where you could voluntarily like serve, do labor for someone in return for like room and board, but you would be treated like a family member. You'd be treated with
Yeah.
love and respect. It wasn't like the dehumanizing slavery in America that was like racially based. This wasn't racially based at all. So they're comparing when they want to compare what was going on in ancient Israel to like slavery in America, and that diminishes the evil that the Americans did. Because what happened in Israel wasn't anything like that.
Okay. Um. Oh, so what are you playing? That's
What's that?
what are you playing, dude?
Just music in the
Oh,
background.
for real? Oh, okay. I thought you were playing like Zelda or something.
Kinda. That's what it is. It's Castlevania.
And you claim the science only works if Jesus is God. How is that possible?
Because for science to be possible, it has to be a certain kind of world. Like if we lived in a world where everything was random, you couldn't do science because science relies on there to be like consistency.
Yeah.
So in the world where like God creates it and orders the world, science is possible to make sense. In like a world without God, you couldn't do science because there'd be no like rhyme or reason. There'd be it would just be like a chaos world. Science won't be possible.
Okay. Um.
But anyway,
Well, saying Christianity is objectively proven when I mean there's a ton of other possibilities.
yeah,
So
I don't think so though, because I think Jesus is necessarily God. If Jesus isn't God, then we wouldn't. There is no God because we wouldn't know God.
what about like your perception on your perspective on like say God is there but also Jesus like Jesus is the Messiah.
Well, I'm a Christian, so I think Jesus is like the second person in the Trinity. It's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Right. Um yeah, cuz there were people in the Bible that did state like but like Jesus said because someone came up to him and they said good teacher. And then Jesus said, I'm no good teacher. The one who sent me is a good teacher. So what do you say about that?
He said there's no one good except for the Father.
No one good except for the Father, yes.
Yeah. So he's saying that basically when the disciples say he's good, the disciple is calling him God.
good teacher.
That Jesus claimed to be God. Were you aware of that?
Where did he say
Like,
that?
that's the whole point of the Gospels. He gets crucified because he claimed he was God.
Yeah.
The Jewish leaders accused him of blasphemy. That's what blasphemy
Yeah.
means.
Okay. She's
So
forgetting.
in every gospel, he claims to be God, and then Alex O'Connor puts out this goofy video saying that only in the Gospel of John does Jesus say he's God. But that's goofy.
Yeah.
The whole point of the
Okay.
gospel is that Jesus is God, and then he's persecuted for claiming to be God.
Yeah. Okay. Jesus. Well, Jesus never said he was God. It was always people saying he was.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna move on. Thanks for coming. A welcome blurb.
Jewish people didn't kill Jesus. Romans killed Jesus.
Sure, at the request of Jewish
No,
people.
not at their request. Like literally, Romans killed him.
At the request of the Jewish
No,
leadership.
not at the request of anybody.
Yes, it
The
was at
Roman record is intact, man. Jewish people did not ask for Jesus to be killed. Romans killed Jesus for sedition, for fomenting rebellion.
It's like they're like trying to provoke by saying weird stuff. I know your game. They're trying to provoke me. I got cooked. So anyone can just say, come up here and say any crazy thing, and then I got cooked. Yeah. So we're reading The Ethics of Freedom. Oh my god. See, look what that guy, the guy that I kicked. Look what he's saying in the chat. Like you can tell the guy's unhinged. So we were talking about ethical choices are often seen as good versus evil. In traditional thinking, ethical decisions are framed as choosing between good and evil. But for Christians, it's not just about having the power to choose good or evil. The nature of the choice itself is different. So good and evil aren't always clear cut. What people call good and evil can be relative, depending on culture, perspective, or circumstances. This doesn't mean these concepts are unimportant, but it does mean they're not always absolute or universal. For Christians, the ethical decision isn't just about weighing these relative goods and evils. Christian choices happen in the now. So for Christians, ethical decisions are immediate and happen in the present, God's today. They aren't based on long deliberations or abstract calculations of what's best. They don't rely on trying to figure out God's will as if it were a fixed rational formula. So we are trying to figure out God's will, but we're not doing it in a scientific way, he's saying. So instead, Christians' choices are about responding to the situation directly, often through commitment and faith rather than carefully planning and reasoning. He's saying that, like, in the moment, in each situation, when we're presented with like an ethical decision, the Holy Spirit will sort of guide us in that moment and to the right thing to do, so that we'll know the right thing to do. Because, like, when our heart, through the grace of God, aligns with His will, then the Holy Spirit will guide us in the moment to make the right choice. So it's about what's possible in the moment. Christian ethics focus on what can realistically be done in the present moment, given the constraints and opportunities of the situation. This doesn't mean Christians only do what is easy or convenient. Instead, it means freedom is found in working within the possible to live out faith and commitment in the real world. So it's like I think he's saying we should be practical, because sometimes people get idealistic and they get really extreme, and then they go into like asceticism, and being a monk and like disconnecting yourself from the world. The importance of means over ends. For Christians, the way something is done, the means, is often more important than the ultimate goal, the ends. Ethical freedom is about how we live out our faith and make choices in our daily lives. It's less about achieving a perfect result and more about faithfully responding to God in the present moment. The way we do things, the means is more important than the ends. Whereas like in a lot of secular thinking, they believe that the ends justify the means. Like it's okay to sacrifice a group of people if it means we'll win the war or something. But as a Christian, we would say we can't do something that's like wrong just because like there's a good result. So ethical choices are practical, not abstract. Christian ethics is less about debating abstract principles and more about figuring out how to live faithfully in a messy, imperfect world. It's like learning an art form, responding to each situation with creativity, responsibility, and trust in God, rather than following a rigid set of rules. So for Christians, ethical choices aren't just about deciding between good and evil or following a fixed plan. Instead, it's about responding faithfully to the present moment, working within what's possible, and focusing on how to live out faith in real, practical ways. Freedom in Christian ethics is about living this way, not about endlessly debating or calculating the perfect choice. What's not true? It is true in a technological morality. Nobody cares. Like science doesn't care about the means. Science only cares about the ends. And people have a very like scientific way of thinking. I'm tolerant. I'm very tolerant. At a deeper level, however, the choice is not merely that of the means whereby the truth is expressed. It is also the choice of what God has done. We have to choose what has already been accomplished in us and for us. I cannot put this better than H. Roy has already done in his Epirtus Pastorales. Quote, "You know in whom you have believed. Seek faith. You have been loved. Seek love. And it corollaries patience and gentleness. For the Christian, the choice is not between sins and virtues, but between perdition and salvation, between death and life. Now, salvation and life are Jesus Christ. To be for him and to live in him is to receive from him the order and meaning of life, and hence to search and find in him the impulses of action and the determinate values of existence. It is because righteousness, piety, faith, and love are the very reality of the new life of the new man in his relation with God through Jesus Christ, that they can and should be the object of seeking, the decisive goal towards which the heart, the will, and the mind of man, of God, are orientated. There can be no question here in taking the list of terms as an enumeration of Christian virtues or spiritual values to which material values may be opposed, and which the Christian is invited to cultivate or seek on the basis of some decision of goodwill. This passage brings out, end quote, end quote. This passage brings out the true meaning of choice. In Christ, this is not an expression of our free will. It is based on what is already given to us, on what has already been done for us and in us. In this regard, but only in this regard, we have a duplication of the situation of Adam. Righteousness has already been given to us. Our task is to choose it, to incarnate it, to live it out. This gives choice both its signification and its limit. It's a matter of great profundity, a choice between death and life, which involves a choice between good and evil. We cannot merely say that the good as such is in our lives, nor is it to be equated with what we regard as righteousness, piety, patience, and long-suffering. A distinction has also to be made in this regard between the situation in the Old Testament and the situation in the New Testament. We may begin by quoting Deuteronomy 30:15 through 19. Quote, "See, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live." Here the people of Israel seems to be precisely in the earthly situation of choice between two given things, although these are not just objective in distance, since the passage also says, "This commandment is not in heaven, the word is in thy heart." While not totally objective, it is, however, presented to man so that he may choose. Naturally, the commandment is addressed to the people of Israel, and yet it does not refer to something which is already realized and achieved and written on the heart. The present mark of God's love and patience and help is the exhortation. Choose life. This is a sufficient reason why Israel should choose life and good. For this word of God, which is addressed to man, creates within him both love and power. Nevertheless, a choice has been made along the lines indicated in disrupted nature. After Jesus Christ, however, the commandment of God is not the same. Man's situation before God has changed. The statement which best brings out the difference is that of Paul in Romans 12:21. Quote, "Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good." End quote. This symbolism here is not so much of the battle as of leaving behind. The situation of man is not of a choice that has to be made between two objects. It is that of a march or movement. Neither good nor evil is an object to be grasped. There is a situation in evil which has to be left behind. We have to go beyond evil. This going beyond is good. An active force, that of the prince of this world, chooses us. Another active force, which is Jesus Christ, also chooses us. The choice is not ours. The life is ours, and it consists of going beyond evil. Hence, the good, which is a surpassing of the situation of evil, is expressed, not in a choice, but in a fundamental transformation, an excelling of what we are. Being truthful is not in this sense the opposite of being a liar. as though we could be either one or the other by choice. Being a liar is the condition of him who is subject to the prince of falsehood, and we are unable by our own efforts or choices to introduce a little truth into it here and there. What we have to do is get beyond this situation and to enter into one ahead, which is that of the truth, in which the power of lying is reduced to that of the past, the surpassed, the defeated, and the impotent. This is the singularity of life in Christ, and it shows us both what choice is and where it is located. For choice is not at issue when all ethics may be summed up in putting off the old man with his deeds and putting on the new man, which is renewed. Colossians 3:9. Freedom is precisely the transition from a past of bondage to a present of liberty. But this attitude of choice, combined with hope as the basis of freedom, means for the Christian projection to the future. Return to the past and seeking refuge in it are incompatible with freedom. Whether at the individual level or at the social level of clinging to past customs and ideas. I am not here subscribing to a psychoanalysis or to an ideology of progress. There can be no hope of promoting progress. But in Christian realism, we must not hope either for a return to the past. We must go forward in the hope of meeting the Savior who comes. We do not put the future above the past. We live by tradition and recollection. Our whole life rests on events of the past, the call of Abraham, the incarnation, the cross, the resurrection. The past is essential, but we must express our freedom not in relation to the past, but in relation to the future, which must be changed into a history and to which we must give meaning. Our freedom is freedom to advance, not in a progress which is the product of historical forces and which is thus more or less automatic, but in a voluntary and deliberate advance effected by choices. Our choices must be constantly criticized when they merely conform to the trend of the age. This is important in relation to technology, which has no theological basis, but toward which we must adopt some position, since we cannot get back behind it. There is no point, in my view, in preaching the natural life, which provokes sympathy but makes no more collective sense than freeing instinctive forces, as Bataille advocates when he suggests that our only eroticism can bring freedom, or he suggests that only eroticism can bring freedom in our over-organized world. The technological society leaves no real room for this hope in nature. We are forced to participate, but in so doing should exercise every possible choice and decision. Only the man liberated by Jesus Christ, if he is bold enough, can do this. Man is so possessed that liberation has to come from outside. A man is needed who relies on a more decisive power than reason or nature, and who is both individual and collective. Only on this condition can our future choices express freedom. But just because freedom is at issue, there can be no guarantees that these choices will be this or what they will be. In freeing us from the past, freedom includes us in a history. It permits us to be creators of history. Only as free men can we be this. In this regard, we must insist on Coleman's distinction between salvation history and history. I do not believe that general history rests on freedom, though this is a common view. To me, it is the fruit of mechanisms and the combination of forces, wills, groups, and systems. It exists as an interrelated circumstances unfold with increasing complexity. It makes no sense either for those who live it or for those who analyze it. Only the philosopher who detaches himself from it and finally does not really know it can give it meaning. For participants, it is no use being free. It is made by millions of alienated men in succession or collaboration. Liberation sets us in the series of God's liberating acts and makes us bearers of the future. But of this future, a continuation of salvation history. This is why the advance that rejects the past and moves toward things to come is so important. But this advance is not progress. It is not the history of men. It is the pursuit of new things. This pursuit alone is the meaning of the freedom given by Christ. The two histories should not be confounded. Not should the possibilities of a future man be confounded with social progress. I think I understand what he's saying there. Maybe I should ChatGPT this. Oh, we got people requested. Keep reporting. For real. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. I just don't understand how you can say there's no slavery in the Old Testament when it's literally in the book, especially in the original Hebrew. You can argue your other objective points, but if you're going to say there's no slavery in the Old Testament,
It's not in the
you're
original.
just not reading your.
I am reading it. It's not in the original book. In the King James version, the word slave doesn't even appear. And the Hebrew word is aved, but
It doesn't matter if the word slave is. The idea of slavery is there. You can take people into basically servitude from other countries, from other lands, and if you're born into slavery after your dad was taken from a war, you're still a slave. So you're just being objectively ignorant. It's okay if you want to believe in God. The words. Just tell.
Well, you're the one who's lying because you're taking something out of context.
No, I've read the book.
Excuse me.
No. The context is there.
Get the hell off
Go
my
ahead and
stage.
talk, but you're wrong on this one.
No, I'm not wrong. You've been lied to, okay? And I don't think you should let someone's dishonest opinion of the Bible rob you of the opportunity to seek truth yourself. Okay, what you're doing is you're making an equivocation on racial, oppressive, cruel slavery in America and the socioeconomic institution of servanthood in the Bible. And what that does is it diminishes the evil of American slavery, which is wrong. Hector Avalos, professor of religious studies and anthropology, who's a well-known atheist and critic of the Bible, he emphasizes this point that slavery in the Bible is fundamentally different from the racially based, dehumanizing American slavery. He says the Bible's framework reflects the cultural and economic realities of the time rather than endorsing slavery in the way people like you often claim. So in the ancient Near East, servitude is a necessary economic institution because they don't have prisons, for one, and they don't have economic safety nets like bank loans, welfare, food stamps. So servitude is a practical solution for addressing debt and poverty, and this was voluntary. And so it was either you would contract with someone, an employer, to work on their farm or whatever. You would exchange your labor, and then in return you would receive some like monetary benefit, right? Like you get shelter, food, etc. So you could live, right? This is a good thing. And to act like this institution of welfare is bad, it's quite frankly, what you're doing is anti-Semitic. Just to be frank, I could go on and on about how wrong you are. There's laws that outlaw kidnapping someone against their will. So that means everything that was going on was voluntary. No one was forced to do anything against their will. They could leave at any time they want. So D.G.A. Klein, in a paper called Social Responsibility in the Old Testament, he puts it, I think he puts it well, where he says, quote, "The only society in the ancient Near East that had a law protecting runaway slaves was the society that traced back to a group of runaway slaves from Egypt. The point is that Israel had experienced God as one who is sympathetic to runaway slaves. So this law is not just an ethical or legal principle in defense of human rights. It reflects on Israel's own religious experience, a fundamental characteristic of biblical ethics." So there's no other nation that had laws protecting runaway slaves except for Israel, because they had been treated bad in Egypt. They had been oppressed and treated cruelly, sort of like the American slaves. So they did not do that to other people. They treated people with love and respect, and they treated everyone like family. So you guys just don't know what you're talking about, and you're slandering the Bible in your ignorance and hate. Look, historian Tom Holland, okay? You don't have to believe me. He says the whole concept of human universal equality is fundamentally Christian. Historian Tom Holland, he wrote a book. He says the idea that slavery is inherently wrong is deeply rooted in a Judeo-Christian worldview. In his book Dominion, How the Christian Revolution Remade the World, Holland contends that the moral framework which considers slavery an absolute evil stems from Christian teachings, particularly those emphasizing the equality of all peoples made in the image of God. So he says in the ancient world, including Greco-Roman societies, slavery was seen as a natural and unchallenged institution. What was revolutionary about Christianity, he argues, historian Tom Holland, academic scholar, he says what Christianity's insistence on the dignity and worth of every individual, regardless of social status, led to like a change in people's thinking on slavery. Isn't that amazing? So our Christian God literally gave the world the concept that all humans are equal and we all have value and that slavery is wrong. That comes from the Christian God. That's so amazing. And then these ignorant cowards who hate Jesus go and read the Bible and slander him. Did Jesus own any slaves? No. Did Muhammad own slaves? Yes. Maybe if you have a problem with slavery, my guy, maybe you should go take it up with Muhammad. Jesus didn't own slaves. You're barking up the wrong tree. So while Christians aren't perfect because we're sinful, we're still sinners even though we're Christian. We're not perfect. You can point to instances in history where Christians were not being very Christ-like. I would say they were Christian in name only, and they were doing evil things. But in general, as an overall, the Christian historical record concerning slavery is quite positive. I would say I'm quite proud of what Christians did in the world to end slavery. So thank God for Jesus that we can have equality and freedoms that we have, right? Because without Jesus, we'd still be in a world where probably slavery was okay. You can take that to the bank. And I know all the deconstruction Christians want to lie about this. And they're not going to tell you what I told you. They're going to let you be ignorant, and they're going to let you go on like debates. And if you talk to anyone that knows what they're talking about, you're going to get smoked. Even the do you guys know? I went and researched what the American slaveholders before the Civil War, their arguments for why slavery was okay. Do you think they talked about Leviticus 25? They did not. Now you have to ask yourself, why are the deconstruction Christians on TikTok in 2025 talking about Leviticus 25 when the slave holding Christians pre-Civil War did not use those passages to justify slavery? They appealed to a debunked doctrine about the curse of Ham. They basically made up this racist doctrine to support what they were doing about God cursing, people. Like, it was all race. It was just because people were racist back then, basically. But scientists were racist back then too. Do they throw away science? Because what about scientific racism? That's a thing. Well, that they don't care about that though. They just want to pick and choose when racism is a problem, I guess. If people they don't like are racist, then it's a problem. But if people they like are racist, then they just ignore it. Seems like what they do. This is what they do. Like, if a Christian preacher laid his hands on his wife, oh, that's evil, right? But if Einstein lays his hands on his wife, oh, well, he's a scientific genius. He might have just an accident. It's, not a big deal. Go make excuses for Einstein, basically. Like, well, Einstein's wife, she was really obnoxious. She kind of had it coming. That's what they would say because they like him, right? But if he was a Christian, then there's like no mercy, right? That's why we need God, because people like don't judge correctly. They're all messed up. Their brains are broken. So freedom and moving forward. So it's not about the past. Freedom isn't about going back to the good old days, making America great again, or trying to recreate past customs and traditions. While the past is important, like the life of Jesus, the resurrection, freedom is about looking ahead, not retreating, not blind progress. It's not about believing in automatic progress, like history will naturally prove on its own, as some philosophies like Marxism or certain ideas of evolution suggest. Instead, it's about making thoughtful, deliberate choices to shape the future. What does it mean being free? Freedom is not guaranteed or automatic. It requires boldness and relies on something greater than human reason or nature alone. Christians believe this freedom comes through Jesus Christ, who liberates people from being controlled by the world's systems and their own limitations. Science only works if Jesus is God because science can't prove science. So science would rely on Jesus to fundamentally explain the foundational beliefs that science relies on, like the principle of induction. or logic or like math, language. It does, Rib. No, I'm not saying random words. Science requires there to be order because science needs repeatable results. If there's no order, there's no science. So the world where God creates it and endows the world with order, science is possible. If you deny that, then you couldn't explain why there would be order in the world that we could do science. Well, I dumbed it down for you. So the role of technology in society, the modern world with its technological advancements can feel overwhelming and controlling. Christians can't ignore technology or return to simpler, natural way of life. Instead, they're called to make responsible and thoughtful choices within this system. That's always like people are like, oh, if you're against technology, why are you on a cell phone? Freedom in this context means resisting the temptation to just go along with whatever is popular or trendy in the age, and instead making decisions that align with deeper spiritual truths. Right? We're just all going along to get along and accepting what's trendy and popular. But as a Christian, we should like ask ourselves, like, okay, it's popular, it's trendy, but what would Jesus do? Know what I mean? For two types of history. So there's a general history. This is the history of human societies, politics, wars, cultural shifts. The author argues that this history is often shaped by impersonal forces like systems, groups, and mechanisms, and it doesn't always reflect true freedom. So human history is like, because we're in the bondage of sin, human history is shaped by deterministic forces. It's not like a reflection of human freedom. Salvation history is the story of God's actions in the world to bring salvation and freedom to humanity. It's meaningful, purposeful, and involves those who are freed by Christ. So the Christian's role. Christians are called to create history, not just follow it. By being free in Christ, they can participate in God's ongoing work to bring about something new and meaningful in the world. This doesn't mean pursuing progress in the worldly sense, but advancing in ways that align with God's purposes, focusing on hope, creativity, and liberation. No, I'm just listening to random NES music. The Christian's role. So Christians are called to create history, not just follow it. By being free in Christ, they can participate in God's ongoing work to bring about something new and meaningful in the world. This doesn't mean pursuing progress in the worldly sense. Oh, I already read this. So true freedom for Christians isn't about escaping to the past or blindly believing in progress. See, that's what the left does. They talk about progress, but it's just like no one even like knows what that means, right? It's just this blind faith in, oh, future equal progress, forward equal progress. So Christian freedom is about moving forward with hope, guided by faith in God, to shape a future that aligns with His will. This kind of freedom allows people to actively participate in a greater story, God's story of salvation and renewal. So, non-believers, do you ever feel powerless, like there's forces in your life beyond your control, and it seems like no matter what you do, your life is going in directions that you can't, like, your choices can't affect? Do you ever feel like there's no meaning, there's no purpose in your life? Do you ever feel like you're all on your own and no one is there to help you when things go bad? Well, let me tell you, there's power in being a Christian. There's meaning and purpose in being a Christian. When you're a Christian, you're never alone because God is always with you. You don't have to be a slave to sin. You've been freed by Christ, and you can participate in God's plan and his purpose for the world. And there's power in that. And that power comes from God. That's like the most powerful thing there is. You don't have to be a slave. You're a child of God. You're made in the image of God. Be a child of God. So freedom as thus defined is acquired in the first instance for service of God. It is freedom for God. We shall not discuss at length this vital, decisive, and primary aspect for two reasons. First, it belongs essentially to the domain of theology, and we cannot enter into all the related problems here. Secondly, Karl Barth has dealt very thoroughly with the matter at various points in the church dogmatics. And since, as indicated above, I am in full accord with his presentation, there seems to be no point in repeating it. We shall thus restrict ourselves to a brief summary. It should be understood, however, that brevity does not signify lack of interest in the subject. In fact, this expression of freedom is central. Freedom finds its first expression here. This is the starting point for its further expression in life and society. It is also because freedom is in the first instance freedom for God and the service of God that it cannot be synonymous with emancipation, arbitrariness, or autonomy. What is given to man is in the first instance of freedom recognized. Wait, where's... Oh. I should read the foot. There's a big footnote. Shit. Holy crap, this footnote's insane. Oh, this is a new chapter. Oh, that was the end of the... Oh, okay, so that was the end of the chapter. Okay. So we're at page 120 now. Only 400 more to go. God, this book is pretty intense. God is just a theory to explain death. God is not a theory or a hypothesis. Science has spent trillions of dollars and millions of hours trying to find God and has not. That's not true. Science doesn't try to find God. Science only makes claims about how we perceive the world. Science doesn't make any claims about reality, and a claim about God would be a claim about reality. 3 more days. Are you excited? This place is about to be so peaceful. I don't think it's going to get banned in America. You got an MRI. Are you trying to figure out why you're atheist? Like, what's wrong with your brain? You'd think they could see atheism on, like, an MRI because it's such a brain defect. On TikTok, users thumb their noses at looming ban. Ahead of Supreme Court ruling, they are mocking U.S. national security concerns about Chinese-owned app. They should be. Because the whole internet is a fucking... The whole internet was created to spy on people, so, like, we don't give a fuck. Like, you're spying on us. Duh. It's not just China. America's spying, too. Everyone's spying. Probably half this chat is spies. Yeah, how many spies in the chat? Spy versus spy. I loved that game for the NES. The game was awesome. Blah, blah, blah. Officials said China could use TikTok to harvest Americans' private data and spread covert disinformation. Well, no shit. Only America should be allowed to do that. So funny. I don't understand why they why is China, every other company can do this, why can't China? Is it just political posturing crap? Much of my TikTok feed is now TikTokers ridiculing the US government. TikTokers thinking their Chinese spy is a form of ridicule. You're a theist by proxy? Yo, the Christian songs, do you think Glurb keeps requesting? Oh, and they're saying we can just use a VPN and still use TikTok. They can't actually ban TikTok in the US because VPNs are not banned. Use a VPN and send a picture to Congress while you do it, because that's what I'll be doing. What, this guy says the VPN can't circumvent the ban? I don't see how it couldn't. I don't. Maybe the guy in the New York Times guy might not know what he's talking about. They might not know how the internet works yet at the New York Times. They might not have figured that one out. I mean, it's only 2025. You know, they'll figure it out eventually. I have faith. Who won't debate? VPN stock price is about to skyrocket. Dude, Nated, what are you saying this crap for? I think I have to mute you. Good lord. What is wrong with people? I don't even want to mute people, but like that's a little too far. Good lord. Yeah, that was Castlevania. Coolest thing about atheism was we don't give a shit what you believe. Atheism, they're not very serious people. One of these statements is false, and I know it. It's not. You're probably thinking of the slavery one. Well, there is, you could argue there's slavery in Egypt, but if you're being charitable, I'm saying there's no slavery in like the ancient Israel.
Hello,
Hello, welcome.
welcome. So I believe that atheism is Christianity is irrational because do you believe in Trinity first of all?
Are you speaking English?
More or less.
I'm not sure what you said.
Basically, I am Greek and I have the ability to read the Bible in its original form. So I have read some of the Bible in Greek. So I don't. So you can't tell me that I have a problem with the translation. And if you believe in Trinity, that the Father is God, Jesus is God, Jesus is not the Father, this is irrational because of the law of identity. Okay. Do you believe
No,
in Trinity? Do you believe in one God or three
it's not
gods?
irrational. There has to be a trinity.
Wait, do you believe in one God or three gods? Simple question.
There's three distinct persons and unified in one Godhead.
Yes, but how can Jesus be different than the Father and be the same person, a God?
They
If you
have
have one God and God is Jesus, Father is God, then according to the law of identity, Jesus equals the Father. Do you
well,
understand?
you and me are different, but we're united in that we both have a human nature.
We-
So it's just
Yes,
like
we are both.
God.
Yes, we are both are humans, of course.
So
Yes.
God is just like three distinct persons that are united
Yes, but
in Godhead.
you said that is so Jesus is not completely God or a part of God, right? So he's not God completely, right?
Bro, I can't even understand what you're saying. I can't understand what he's saying. There's no problem. I'm not like an expert on the Trinity, but there's no problem with the Trinity. It's necessary to explain the one and the many. When the United States shutters a massive free expression service, which our Democratic allies have not shuttered, it'll make us the censor and put us in the unusual position of silencing expression. It will make Americans who use TikTok really distrustful of the US government as carrying their best interests. The world of TikTok. They say there's like $1 billion on the line here. I don't understand why would someone like give up $1 billion? Just set fire to $1 billion. There's no way. Wait, it's November 17th is the TikTok ban? I thought it's the 19th. It's the 19th, right? Oh, Hatim the Dream. What's up, Hatim?
What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
What would you like to say?
I don't think I could say anything, man. I don't have the capability for intelligibility. Anything I say will just be nonsense.
For real, like, because to even talk, there would have to the uniformity of nature would have to be true. But only Christians can explain the uniformity of nature.
Yeah. Right now, I'm just gibberating.
So, like, I don't understand. Why don't you just be a Christian and stop being? Like, you can be evidence based. You don't have to like believe this things on faith, blind faith.
Yeah, I think there's like, I just like faith, just believe things for no reason. Why not? No good
Well, I don't
reasons.
know. I think we should have reasons for why we think things are true.
Why not? I'm cool with circularity. Just presup what my beliefs are and just go
Well,
from there. Just automatically presume what my beliefs and just go from there. Why not?
don't you think circularity is unavoidable as foundational? Like, to prove logic, we'd have to use logic,
It's
right?
unavoidable, so I might as well be proud of doing it and like be fervent in it. There's nothing, no shame in doing the unavoidable, in my opinion.
Well, it's just like people don't know there's different types of circular reasoning. Like, they're not all fallacious. There's
Sure,
like,
there's multiple types of circularity. Yeah.
yeah, there's like question begging circularity, which people are most familiar with, and that is a fallacy. But there's also worldview circularity, epistemic circularity, and transcendental circularity.
Yep.
And those aren't like transcendental circularity is going to be necessary. Like, there's nothing wrong with that because any justification for something that's necessary for experience is going to be circular.
On a real note, um, I'm curious about number three. That's why I came up here. How do you
Uh,
define slavery?
how do I define it? I don't really define it. I just like I'm saying that there's the slavery that took place in America, the racial, dehumanizing, oppressive, cruel slavery, and then the slavery in the Old Testament is nothing like that. So that would be like an equivocation to compare the two. That's basically what I'm saying.
Well, well, you can compare two different events if they share common veins and say that they're alike in some sense,
Yeah, but they're not.
which they're alike in the sense that
They're not
they're
like.
unpaid labor. If you define slavery as unpaid forced labor, then
Yeah, that wasn't. See, that's the thing is nothing was like forced in the Old Testament. It's all voluntary.
did they not say that you can grab your nation's neighboring nations people and make them your servants?
Yeah, but it's voluntary. It's not. It's against the law to like do it against someone's will. You wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Where does it say that? Doesn't say that in
It
that
does.
extra.
In Exodus 21:16, it says you can't force people against their will and sell them.
I doubt that.
It's in
That's not
Exodus 21:16. It says you can't steal people against their will and then sell them.
all right. Let me just Google it.
You would get capital punishment if you did that. Like, do you know that the only nation that had a law protecting runaway slaves was Israel, ancient Israel? None of the other nations had a law protecting runaway slaves. See, you guys don't know this stuff. The reason you think slavery is bad is you got that from your Judeo-Christian values, from your culture, because you grew up in the West. I'm assuming
I just get it from first principles.
you grew up in the West, right?
No.
Oh, where are you from?
Well, I mean, not only the West, I should say.
Yeah. Well, that's why you think slavery is bad. If you grew up in like in some Muslim countries, you probably wouldn't think slavery was bad.
I did grow up in a Muslim country.
Yeah, but you would sound. Yeah, I think you're Western.
Yeah, I mean, I just believe in liberalism.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
Western.
I think I believed in liberalism when I was 5 years old.
Well, maybe, but your ideas come from the West, so Do you think slavery is
You're
wrong?
talking about like John Locke and stuff.
Your values are ultimately going to trace back to Christianity and
Do you
Judaism.
think? I'm pretty sure there are African philosophers that conjured up the idea of liberalism.
Well, historian Tom Holland, he's going to say that like the Christians were the first. It was revolutionary for us to say like slavery is wrong. Like no one in that the ancient Near East was saying that.
But there's contradictions in the Old Testament, though. Well, not contradictions, but contrasting views.
I don't think so. Slavery in Rome is going to be different though than the slavery. There was slavery in Rome. In Rome, like 50% of the population was enslaved. It was like crazy.
Yeah. The Bible contains passages in the Old Testament that regulate and acknowledge the practice of slavery. Exodus 21, 2-11. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve 6 years, and in the seventh he shall go out.
Yeah, but that's not slavery. That's all voluntary. No one is forced to do anything against their will.
This passage. So you're saying there's no coercion when somebody buys and sells somebody?
No, it's like it's like a welfare program.
As for your male and female slaves, you're saying that the only way for the welfare program to happen is if you sell yourself?
Yeah, so they didn't have like food stamps back then, and they didn't have bank loans, and so to avoid destitution and poverty, people
As for
would
your male and female slaves?
volunteer to like work, and they'd be treated like family. They would be treated with love and respect and dignity. They weren't treated cruelly or they weren't oppressed. They didn't have to do anything against their will.
Well, see, it's they say you can beat your slave up until
No.
what?
Sometimes you would yes, if the slave deserved to be beaten, the slave
I don't
was.
think anyone deserves to be beaten.
Oh really? Well, what if you walked in on your slave and they were SAing your child? Don't you think you would beat them?
Well, beat is different than like self-defense.
Yeah, it wouldn't be self-defense. It'd be you beating them as punishment.
Yeah, I would. I don't do revenge. I don't believe in revenge. I believe in self-defense.
Yeah, well, there would be justified reasons to beat your slave.
Okay, well, it doesn't seem like they gave that. Uh,
Well, that's
clause.
that's you adding to the text because you're a hateful person.
How it says if a
Okay,
man beats his,
where does it say that's an unjustified beating?
no one said. Well,
Well,
I think.
it's obviously
Hold on.
if they're getting
Hold on, hold
beaten, they
on.
deserve to get beaten.
Why would the text say this is you can unjustly beat it? Of course, their perspective is going to say any beating of a slave is going to be justified.
Right. So see how your interpretation is stupid and how you're a big
When did
idiot.
hold on. What interpretation did I say was stupid?
You put this context like, oh, they're just beating people like because they like for fun or something.
I never said that. I never said
Yes?
that.
Okay.
You're lying. Now you're lying.
No, you're lying. What an atheist dipshit, man. Dude, you're a cheater, dude. Fuck you. Your team is a goof. He absolutely was implying, oh, you can beat your slave just willy nilly. That's what he was totally implying. And he acts like oh, I didn't say that. Yeah, you did. What a liar. They add all this context that's not in the text. And he acts like he doesn't. Welcome, C8.
Hey, how are you going to use that language and say you're a Christian?
I don't understand. Are you a Christian?
No, I'm an atheist.
Oh, well, yeah, and I can use whatever the hell language I want.
Yeah, you're not a Christian then.
According to you,
Stop pretending. You're just rage baiting.
not rage baiting nothing.
No, you are definitely 100%. You're playing a stupid video game. You're trying to rage bait people and not be bored. You're juggling 48 things at once. Like, come on, dude. It's grow up time, right?
I have arguments for all these things that I can prove everything.
Your argument is trust me, bro.
No, I have a
It is.
transcendental argument for God.
Let's hear it.
Sure.
Fallacy. No, sorry,
Be
go ahead.
Yeah, God has so like science can't tell us what the truth is, and philosophers can't tell us what the truth is. So the only way to know the truth is if we accept Jesus' revelation that Jesus is who he says he is. He says he's the truth.
So it's feelings over fact.
So to deny Jesus would be to deny truth. There would be no truth.
So it's feelings over fact. It's
No, I
belief
think
over fact.
Jesus, the revelation of Christ is necessary for truth.
It's those are all feelings and beliefs, my friend.
We
None
have
of that is scientifically proven.
Okay, so what's truth if it's not Christ?
You can't scientifically prove that Christ exists.
Can science tell
There's
us?
no proof. Zero.
Can science tell us what the truth is?
Absolutely.
What's the truth?
That there's no proof of Jesus or God.
You see how goofy you are?
You see how goofy you are?
No.
You're using your belief system to try to sway an argument one way or the next, and it's all just rage bait. You have no actual proof. There's no actual fact. You read a book that condones intolerance, slavery, alcoholism, and abuse, and you're stuck by it, and it makes zero sense to anybody that has read that book.
Were you raised by wolves?
That's the dumbest thing you've said all day,
Well,
and
it's
you've
like
said a lot of dumb shit.
It's like you're acting like you don't have parents.
That's the dumbest shit you've said all day.
Okay.
Everyone has parents. How are we created in this world if daddy doesn't stick his penis into mama?
Oh my god. Yep. This is what they do. These people are like, it's like literally raised by wolves. They have no manners, no respect for others. See, you're acting like a 12-year-old. I was trying to give you the argument in like a really simple way. Science doesn't know what the truth is. Philosophers can't tell us what the truth is. So, what's the truth? Well, Jesus said, I am the truth. So, I accept what Jesus said. I believe Jesus is the ultimate personal creator God that revealed himself in creation and human history, without which there is no truth to speak of. He's the ultimate foundation for truth. So if God's not the ultimate foundation for truth, Jesus isn't the ultimate foundation for truth, well then what is? I'd love to know. Ray Discomfort.
How you going?
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fairly well.
I think your name would be funnier if it was gay discomfort.
I'm gonna go. Oh, I can't change it anymore. You like there's like a weird thing whispering in one of his ears, and then Cliff Connectal is whispering in his other ear.
Mm.
Anyway, I have a question, and it's a pretty important one. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, my question is, how in the
That guy was a troll. Yeah. Well, at least when TikTok's banned, I'll never have to talk to him again. So, they announced a Switch 2. Hmm. Well, no one's requesting up. This guy isn't Christian. I'm gonna go take a nap. I might stream later. Thanks, guys.